Houston, our instruments are showing that we have a incoming message from deep space. Repeat, Houston, we have an incoming message from deep space. Houston, we'll begin playing message now. Houston, we're going to try and translate that up here. Hold for translation. Translation complete. We'll begin playing message now.
Hey, it's me, Melissa.
What do you do when the aliens invade? Take a shot of MK Ultra and watch Melissa Jade. Put on your tinfoil hat and tune right in. We got their crime spree, flat earth theories, government conspiracies, a complex Mandela effects, unidentified objects, a mind expanding, fake moon landing, what it all been understanding. It's me, Melissa. It's me, Melissa. Aliens on the sun or in Area 51. Time travels, unravels, haunted castles, cops are baffled, potential experimental thoughts that make you transcendental. It's me, Melissa. It's me, Melissa. Crime sprees, flat earth theories, government conspiracies, complex Mandela effects, unidentified objects, a mind expanding, fake moon landing, what it all been understanding. It's me, Melissa. It's me, Melissa.
Hello, everybody. Hey, Meat Feeds. Hi, Mars, MK, Misbehavin', 87, Snot Rocket, K-Braze, Hippie Chick, Dara, Michelle, Chica, Corey, Kate, Denise, Eddie, Lisa, Harlot, let me see, Sherry, Cool Gamer, Musicity Mom. Hi guys, how are you? I'm gonna give a little bit of a warning. If I lisp a little, I apologize. My TMJ is acting up really bad. Anybody who has ever suffered with TMJ, you know your entire jaw tends to lock up, and it causes me to have struggle speaking. So if I sound a little bit silly with my pronunciation, more so than usual, that's the reason. So I apologize. Hi, Sherry. Oh, Snot Rocket. Just because I fucking missed you. Thank you. That's very kind of you. Thank you, Nay. It does, Michelle. The TMJ is probably triggered because I've been clenching my jaw so much from stress and anxiety. And so it's been really, really bad. And then, but, okay. Anybody who has been following the Delphi case knows how big it is with the documents that were just released. Now, when it comes to the Delphi case, even though some time has passed, that case is a prime example of a case with a strict gag order and it being very hush-hush. we still have not been officially told how these girls were even killed. Now, we've heard things, but as far as like what's been officially released, a cause of death or manner of death, aside from homicide, we do not know. And so there was movement when Richard Allen was arrested. And then, but we still didn't get many details aside from a bullet being found between Abby and Libby that matched a gun that belonged to Richard Allen. And things like that. And then he had confessed to his wife and mother. Then it popped back up with the maltreatment of Richard. The next time we saw Richard after his arrest, he had significant weight loss, and he looked horrible. And his lawyers were bringing awareness about the conditions that Richard Allen was living under, which I think is going to play a role in what just came out. Well, now we have this document that was just released, and the defense managed to release details about this crime that we had never known before. And they managed to release it while still following the gag order, because the details they are releasing play direct relevance into the argument that they are presenting. But these issues are very, very interesting. So let's just get right into it. Yeah, defense spilled the beans. Now, we heard things regarding how Abby and Libby were found, but I don't know, man. I have questions. We'll get into it, though. I don't know, Harlot. I'm curious about that too. I don't know how exactly it works, like how, what the protocol should have been to follow. Obviously, all these details are going to be coming out with trial, but these are details that they kept under wrap for so long. And then all of a sudden, the defense for Richard Allen lets it right out. And it's like, are they going to get in trouble for that? Was that allowed? I don't know. Why was this released and then sealed again? Did defense do it on purpose? I didn't know that they sealed it again. So this is sealed again? Hi, Kimberly. It is K-Braze. It is horrible. I know Shay, if she gets a chance to come up here, Shay's been going deep down the rabbit hole with this. So we're definitely going to be doing a part 2 to specifically go down. I want to do a live specifically to focus on the suspects, the potential suspects that this motion is raising questions about. I know Shay has gone deep down the rabbit hole, so we'll hopefully get into a little bit of that today if she has the chance to come up, but we'll definitely do a live on that specifically. But there are some good, if we're going as far as reasonable doubt, there's some good arguments in here. Right, me Pete's? Okay. So this is a memorandum in support of the accused's motion for Frank's hearing. This is a very large document. I'm not going to be able to read the entire thing. I can drop the link for anybody who wants access to go through it themselves. Yeah. So, So it says the purpose of this introductory section is to provide the court a general understanding of what to expect concerning the facts upon which the defense will be relying and how those facts impact the legal arguments. But before providing the necessary detail, minutia, and notation for the record, that could bog down the court as it attempts to unpack the defense arguments. Let me see. So it has a table of contents because, again, there's 136 pages in this document. It's a lot. So let's start with the 8 things to know, which is the beginning. Eight things to know. Overwhelming evidence in this case supports the following. Okay? Because what this document is going to be trying to show is that Abby and Libby were victims of a ritualistic sacrifice. Yes, if you didn't hear me, I said a ritualistic sacrifice by the Odinism cult, which I've got to look more into myself. But when I was like, what? What'd they just say? Yes. We're actually, talk about like something that you would imagine hearing on a YouTube channel. No, like this is conspiracy right on real paper, legal documents. How addicted to art and crime? So it says, 1, members of a pagan Norse religion called Odinism, hijacked by white nationalists, ritualistically sacrificed Abigail Williams and Liberty Germain. 2, very early on, those in charge of the Delphi murder investigation claim that they consulted with a Purdue professor concerning what resembled possible Odinism signatures left behind at the crime scene. After the Purdue professor proclaimed that it was not Odinism or any type of cult worshiping or any type of group that would have conducted the crime, the Odinism angle was essentially abandoned. And we'll get into that when I go through the crime scene with you guys. However, as of September 7th, 2023, the leaders of the Delphi investigation team, 1, claim that they can't identify who this purported professor was. 2, have provided no reports from this purported professor. And 3, have further indicated they may never be able to figure out who this professor is. Based in large part upon this mystery, Purdue professors' opinions, the Delphi investigative leadership claimed that essentially abandoned considering Odinite involvement in the murders. And then the years passed, 2018, 2019, 20, 21, 22. Thankfully, during those passing years, law enforcement officers Kevin Murphy, Greg Ferenczi, and Todd Click continued to pursue the truth. Because of their curiosity and investigative efforts, the evidence establishing the names of the likely murdering members of the Odinite cult became known to the Delphi investigative leadership no later than February 2018. Due to either incompetence or a concerted intentionality, those in charge of the investigation refused to arrest or even properly investigate these obvious suspects. That's crazy, right? I went looking for it as soon as I heard it was sealed. Wait, so is it sealed or no? I know, Musa City Mom. That's correct. It doesn't negate that evidence. So after reading Richard Allen's probable cause affidavit, Click, which was one of the officers, became concerned that the information contained in Richard Allen's affidavit pointing the finger at Allen was far less compelling than the totality of the information that Detective Ferenczi, Detective Murphy, and Officer Click had accumulated during the Rushville portion of the investigation. That information had gathered during their investigation connected men who practiced Odinism in or near Delphi with another group of men who lived in Rushville, and then connected both groups of men to the murders. Click was concerned that for some reason the leadership of the investigative team had failed to share with Prosecutor McClelland the evidence gathered by Click, Ferenczi, and Murphy. Click's concerns led him to seek out a lawyer to assist him in the drafting of a letter. This letter was then sent to McClelland. This letter was not provided to the defense until after it was obvious from the last round of depositions that the defense would certainly be talking with Todd Click. McClelland had this letter in his possession for over 4 months before turning it over to the defense. There can be no mistaking that this letter is exculpatory in nature and could have been used by the defense as it prepared for upcoming depositions. So here is a great example, just for anybody covering the Kohberger case or following the Kohberger case. What can fall under exculpatory evidence? This letter that this officer wrote, having concerns about Richard Allen, given that they had made connections and had an investigative route that connected Odinism to potential people near the murders, would fall under exculpatory evidence. Hey, Crichton. So not only did the prosecution withhold that letter from the defense, but law enforcement also withheld several other exculpatory pieces of evidence, including an 85-page compilation of reports by Click prepared in 2019 and several videos containing statements that support the defense theory of Richard Allen's innocence. This 85-page detailed the investigative work performed by Click, Forensic, Murphy, and others, including the FBI. According to the summary of Click's investigation that he attached with his letter, the Behavioral Analysis Unit of the FBI determined that the individuals responsible for the homicides were involved in the Nordic beliefs. This was news to the defense, as no member of the unified command in charge of the investigation revealed this information to the defense during recent depositions. At least up until the time of this filing, the prosecution has provided no evidence whatsoever of the findings of the FBI's BAU unit concerning involvement of Odinists in the murders. None. Lastly, the evidence will show that the week of August 28th, 2023, Prosecutor McClellan and State Trooper Jerry Holman requested a meeting with Todd Click. By this time, the defense team had taken several depositions, and the prosecution and Delphi investigative leadership now knew that for a while, the defense team had been aware of the Odinist evidence, at least the evidence that the prosecution turned over to the defense scattered throughout multiple hard drives and many flash drives. The prosecution had learned in early August that the defense had figured out the strong Odinist ties to the crimes, despite the apparent attempts of the prosecution, Liggett and Holman, to hide this exculpatory information from the defense. So they failed to include all of the Odinite information. It says Richard Allen has zero connection to any pagan cult or pagan cultists, and furthermore, no forensic evidence such as DNA or electronic evidence links Richard Allen to the girls or to the crime scene. He is a completely innocent man. 6, most of the evidence backing these assertions were found scattered over no less than 10 hard drives and several flash drives provided by the prosecution, meaning that the defense is not making wild accusations, but rather primarily relaying facts and information that is backed up by the prosecutor's own discovery, even discovery that the prosecution just provided to the defense as late as September 8th, 2023. Not coincidentally, members, Odinists, of the same pagan cult are employed as correction officers for the Indiana Department of Corrections at Westville Correctional Facility. It is inside of the cold concrete walls of the maximum security unit of the dilapidated reformatory that Richard Allen is being threatened, intimidated, and mentally abused. Remember earlier when I said the claims that Allen is being treated inhumanely, how it was going to come and play a role now? This is what I meant. So this goes into the Odinism and what it is. So the Odinism is the pagan religion, and followers are called Odinites. They are the Viking Nordic culture. Evidence supports that at the crime scene, these murdering Odinites left behind obvious signatures, symbols in the form of runes. These runes were 1, formed with sticks, 2, fashioned with tree branches, and 3, painted using the blood of Liberty Germain. Sticks and tree branches were deliberately, carefully, and proficiently placed on each girl in a certain arrangement mimicking certain runes. At least one of the branches appeared to have its end cut off cleanly by some type of tool, looked like an electric saw, providing proof of a preconceived plan. Additionally, the blood of Liberty Germain was used as the paint to mark a tree with a rune that looks similar to the letter F. With a simple Google search, these runes would be identifiable as one of the many calling cards of this pagan religious cult. Yet law enforcement in charge of the Delphi investigation seemingly and quickly abandoned the obvious correlation between the crime scene and Odinism, despite an obscene amount of evidence linking Odinism to the crime scene. And even in spite of powerful evidence linking specific Odinites in and around Indiana to the murders. Richard Allen has absolutely no links to Odinism or a religious cult. No forensics, no DNA, no electronic data links Allen, and nothing additional links Allen. They failed to produce the Odinist links in this investigation. And a particular Odinite from Logansport named Brad Holder posted on social media mimicking the very ruins found at the crime scene. A crime scene that was unreleased and unknown to the general public even to this day. Who was Brad Holder? He was an Odinite whose son, Logan, had been dating Abby. Brad Holder's social media posts seemingly taunted the very police that refused to fully investigate him. The defense believes that the court will be shocked at the number of clues or Easter eggs, both before and after the murders, that Holder openly posted on his Facebook page that pointed the finger to his involvement in the murders. Wow. So defense is coming out and they're pointing their finger at Abby's boyfriend's dad. And this is what I mean by we're going to have a live specifically on what's up with the people they pointed their finger at, because Shay went down this rabbit hole. And I'm not going to lie, there's his social media, there's some interesting stuff. Oh, you're sweet, Johnny, but I can't read right now. Like, it's so painful, and I know I'm not reading well, and I apologize, but I'm doing my best, guys. Brad Holder was never considered a suspect. Brad Holder was cleared as a suspect quickly on March 16th, 2017. There were no leads concerning Brad Holder, meaning that it was not necessary for law enforcement to continue looking for leads related to Brad Holder. A mere 15 days after the girls were murdered, that determination was made. So by March 16th, 2023, Unified Command member Kevin Hammond wrote that Brad Holder had been cleared. The girls hadn't been dead for 30 days, and he had cleared Brad Holder as a suspect. Despite Brad Holder's son dating Abby. Even though a simple review of Brad Holder's Facebook page would show that Brad was a proud Odinite that had an absolute obsession and fascination with runes. Police knew or had to know that runes had been left at the crime scene. Additionally, Unified Commander had already cleared Holder as a suspect in spite of the fact that runes found on Brad Holder's Facebook page mimicked runes found at the crime scene that had not been released to the public. The investigation had barely begun, but the commander had already cleared the very man that any person with even a small amount of common sense or curiosity would believe was a strong candidate for being involved in the murder of the girls. His social media has disturbing images on it that mimics the crime scene. So a trooper received a phone call from a man in Georgia who had discovered the disturbing images in Brad's social media account. Once he learned that Brad was Logan's dad, the guy started reviewing Brad's social media history. One of the images the guy found on Brad's social media was an image of two women either dead or posed as if they were dead on the ground in what appeared to be a forest. Both women had tree limbs and sticks arranged on their bodies. One of the women had her arm stretched out above her head, similar to the way that Libby's arm was stretched above her head. Both women were clothed, and the stick and tree branch formations on these girls was different than the stick and tree branch formations on Abby and Libby, but otherwise it bore a very eerie similarity to the murder scene in Delphi. So it's just showing the correlations, and it's building their case of why they think that Holder is a significant potential suspect. I want to jump to the crime scene, though. So it says this memorandum will consist of 5 parts. Part 1 will be a description of the crime scene. This description will provide important and necessary context that will allow understanding for the rest of the memorandum and will also provide insight into the preposterous claim by Sheriff Leggett that one and only one person was responsible for these murders. This will be important as Sheriff must claim that Richard Allen acted alone in order to dispel the massive evidentiary foundation that supports the likelihood that the pre-planned abduction and ritualistic murder of Abby and Libby required multiple Odinites in order to succeed. Part 2 will detail the evidence that connects the Odinites to the murders. Part 3 will detail the information that confirms that Tony Leggett concealed evidence in his search warrant affidavit concerning statements of Betsy Blair and fabricated statements in his search warrant affidavit concerning Sarah Cabrar. Part 4 will consist of evidence that Odinite corrections officers in leadership have been positioned to watch, guard, and intimidate Richard Allen since at least early 2023. This section will also provide images of the patches worn by Sergeant Robinson and Sergeant Jones, as well as images taken from their Facebook page. So he is showing that the guards in charge of Richard Allen at the jail are wearing these Odinite patches, and it's not part of their uniform. 5. Part 5 will include information concerning how Richard Allen became a patsy in this investigation 26 days before an election. It will also address the complete lack of evidence that links Richard Allen to the murders, including an analysis of the weak evidence that Leggett relied on in his affidavit as he attempted to persuade Judge Diener that evidence of the murders would be found in Richard Allen's home. So let's get to the crime scene, but I will give you guys a trigger warning that it is very sensitive material, and so Viewer discretion is advised. Yes, 87. So when I go over the crime scene, that's why I think it's necessary to kind of go to the crime scene right now. You'll understand a little bit more why they're going in the cult direction. Thank you, Shay. Yeah, here is a direct link for anybody who wants to access the full document, 136 pages for themselves. All right. The crime scene. And again, up until now, we haven't known any details. Girl, if you want to come up, I'm struggling to talk because my TMJ is so bad. You want to come up, you're more than welcome to come up. But if not, I'll just keep busting it out. I'm not sure if you guys could hear the pain in my voice, but I'm doing the best I can. Okay, so the crime scene. When members of a search party found the girls in the late morning of February 14th, 2017, Abby and Libby had been missing for approximately 22 hours. The scene was ghoulish. Libby was found at the base of a tree with 4 tree branches of varying sizes intentionally placed in a very specific and arranged pattern on her naked body. Libby was positioned flat on her back, with her left arm stretched above her head, touching the base of the large tree. Libby's right hand was covered in blood. Libby's left hand was covered in blood. Blood spots and blood drippings were seen all over Libby's body, from head to toe. Libby's right arm was placed along the side of her body. One large tree branch had been placed on her left shoulder. This branch was so long that it extended above Libby's head several feet and below her legs for several feet as well. 2 smaller branches formed a V where her legs joined her body, near her genitalia, with both sides of the V extending upward toward Libby's head, with one branch extending to the left of Libby's head and the other to the right of Libby's head. The last of the 4 branches extended across Libby's body on a line from her right shoulder to her left shoulder. This 4th tree branch also connected with the other 3 branches and was placed under both branches that formed the V. Libby's sliced neck was partially covered by this 4th branch. There appeared to be no blood sprayed or dripped onto the leaves or the tree near Libby's. There appeared to be no blood sprayed or dripped onto the leaves or the tree near Libby's head or sliced neck. It appeared likely that Libby had been killed at a nearby tree and then dragged to her final resting place, where she was then positioned before having the tree limbs placed on her in a very specific pattern. Oh, I heard someone backstage and then now I don't see nobody. The murderers treated Abby very differently. Abby was found just a few feet away from Libby. Her body was not placed parallel to Libby, but rather at an angle, with Abby's legs just a few feet from Libby's legs. However, both of their heads were found a few feet farther apart from each other. Significant differences existed between how Libby's body was found and how Abby's body was found. Abby was not found at the base of a tree. Abby was fully clothed. In fact, Abby was dressed in Libby's sweatshirt and jeans. How peculiar is that? No blood appeared on Abby's clothing, meaning that she was likely murdered while naked and then dressed by the murderers after she expired and after the blood had stopped spilling from her neck. Abby's hands were clean, no blood. Abby's feet were clean, no blood. Other than blood found around Abby's neck area, where the murderers had inflicted the fatal wound, very little, if any, blood was found anywhere else on Abby's body or clothing. The juxtaposition of the spots and streaks of blood found all over Libby's body with the lack of blood on Abby's body, undergarments, overgarments is stark. The murderers appeared to have gone to great lengths to keep Abby's body and clothing clean from blood. Abby was found on her back, like Libby. However, unlike Libby, Abby's elbows were bent with her right and left arms placed on her chest. Abby's left hand and arm near the left side of her face, and her right hand and arm near the right side of her face. Also, Abby's left leg was straight, while her right leg was bent at the knee. The murderers also placed her bent right leg under her left leg. Like Libby, those involved in the murder had placed tree branches in a very specific pattern on top of Abby. The pattern looked very similar to an asterisk consisting of 3 tree branches all joined in the middle. At least one of the tree branches appeared to have been cleanly cut by some instrument, like an electric saw, rather than split or broken by hand, indicating that this was a preconceived plan. Above Abby's head were smaller sticks that had been placed over her hair, crudely mimicking horns or antlers. The amount of blood that would be perhaps expected at the crime scene based upon the location of the injuries of both girls was not visible in the crime scene photos. The defense has provided the court with 12 crime scene and autopsy photographs, marked as Exhibits 5 through 16 as confidential. These photographs support the descriptions provided in the previous paragraphs. In addition to the unusual way the girls were posed, including the stick formations placed on their bodies, another unusual marking was found on a nearby tree. A symbol that looked similar to the letter F appeared approximately 4 feet above the base of the tree. The F was red in color, and later DNA testing showed that the F had been painted on the tree using Libby's blood as the so-called paint. Additional blood spatter was found at the base of the same tree. All the blood at the base of the tree appears to have been Libby's blood as well. The defense has also provided the court with Exhibit 17, DNA documentation, supporting the fact that Libby's blood was the source of the F painted on the tree. Said exhibit is marked as confidential. The defense has also provided 2 photos of this F found on the nearby tree, marked as confidential. Defense is also providing a photo of the F tree from a wider angle for the court to have perspective as to where the F tree is located relative to the bodies. Under Abby's left lower back, a shoe was found. This shoe is believed to be Libby's shoe. Under the shoe, a cell phone was found. The cell phone was later determined to be Libby's phone. This information was confirmed by the recent deposition testimony of Leggett, Leesenby, and Holman. According to the recent depositions taken of Sheriff Leggett, the famous video of the person that many people call Bridge Guy was found on this phone. Additionally, allegedly found between the 2 girls, buried under the leaves and dirt, was a single bullet. The defense has provided 2 photos of the shoe and cell phone found under Abby's legs and marked them Exhibits 21 and 22. Also, the defense has provided 3 photos of a bullet purportedly found in the ground between Abby and Libby. It should be noted, the defense has no photos of the bullet allegedly found between the girls after it was removed from the ground. No photo or video shows the bullet as it was being pulled from the ground. No photo or video after the bullet was pulled from the ground. No photo or video of the bullet of all the sides as it exists. No photo or video exists of the bullet measuring it. No photos that show what the bullet looked like once it was pulled out of the ground could provide proof that it is the same bullet that ended up in the evidence locker room. Shockingly, in his deposition, Sheriff Leggett admitted that he also has not seen any photographs of the purported bullet taken once the bullet was pulled from the ground. In other words, the only photos that the defense has found in the discovery it has received are the bullets still buried in the ground. At this time, the defense has no idea if the photos of the bullet after it was removed from the ground even exist. Or 2, the photos exist, but the state has not yet turned these important photographs over to the defense. Or 3, the defense has missed these photos in the voluminous discovery. Either way, the defense has asked the prosecutor to please locate these photographs. One man alone completed all these tasks in less than 1 hour and 17 minutes. Okay. So, Leggett claimed under oath that one single solitary person was responsible for abducting and murdering the girls. That Allen acted alone. That the murders were not a result of a coordinated abduction and subsequent ritualistic sacrifice. But I just want to pause there because I want to see what you guys, I want to flip back to this screen and I want to see what you guys, because those are some crazy details. That is, okay. So let me go back up. So now we know the girls' throats were slit. We heard rumors of this, but we never knew for certain. I picked up the interesting choice of words, at least with Abby. Where was it? See, it says, other than blood found around Abby's neck where the murderers had inflicted the fatal wound. So there's likely more than just One, I know we heard about a knife being wound, but these girls were likely stabbed and their throats, both of their throats were sliced. Okay. But, okay, so it's just so horrible. Libby was naked. She was on her back at the base of a tree, 4 branches, not natural, like they were very intentionally placed there. There's blood on her right hand, blood on her left hand, and there's blood markings all throughout her body. Her right arm is placed along the side of her body. Hey, Meat Feets.
Hey, MJ.
How you doing?
I'm okay. I don't think you're very okay. I'm sorry.
I'm okay. Just doing my best.
Yeah, you're a trooper.
Pushing through it. This is just really hard stuff to go through at the same time.
Oh my gosh. Reading this, like, you know me, I don't have to take breaks often, but I had to take a break on this one.
I know. It's a lot. So I just finished reading all of it, but now I kind of want to go through it and get what people's thoughts are, because this is really the differences between Libby and Abby, and we heard that. I remember hearing that way before this ever came out. There was talk about the girls were found very differently, but I didn't expect this.
Yeah, I didn't expect this either. And I have a lot of questions, like about the blood
Mm-hmm.
or lack thereof,
Mm-hmm.
the clothing
Mm-hmm.
being put post-mortem.
Yeah.
There's just so much that doesn't make sense, but I think it doesn't make sense because we're not insane, you know?
So Libby is found naked. Libby has blood on her right hand, left hand, markings throughout her whole body. But then we have Abby, no blood on her right hand or left hand, and she's clothed, yet she's not in her own clothes. She's in Libby's clothes, and these clothes do not have any blood on them.
No blood.
That is bizarre. So did he make them strip down first?
I'm thinking so. But I was thinking, how hard would it be to redress somebody after they've already passed? I mean, he put a bra on her, a sports bra, a t-shirt, a hoodie, her underwear, her jeans, and shoes. I mean, that alone's got to be so exhausting, and it just doesn't make sense to me. And there's no, like, dirt on the sweatshirt's clean.
Well, and when did he put the outfits back on? Because did he do it when they got to the site that their bodies were found, or did he do it wherever they were killed? Because I don't want to get too graphic, but that's not likely where they were killed. The lack of blood also indicates that's not where they were killed.
And I don't know if you read this part because I was backstage trying to get it to connect and stuff, so it doesn't let you listen through then. But there was mention of her being hung upside down. Did you get to that part?
Mm-mm.
Okay, because possibly she was hung while she was killed, and that's why there's no blood on her
Where does it say that?
in one of the pages.
Perfect.
Shay. She'll be like, it's page 47, line blah, 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 blah. She knows this amazingly.
Yeah.
But it just, for some reason, to me, it's like screaming Blair Witch. Like the sticks and the placement and all this stuff. It almost seems like he was trying to make it look like that, but not really a ritual. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Like, right.
Like trying to set up a holder or something.
See, the blood, the marking on the tree. Wow. All right. All I know is whoever did this is sick. Okay.
Oh, completely.
But what I struggle with is the time. The fact that this was a popular area. This was early in the day. People were there. And so the idea that this is taking place where people aren't too far away, that's crazy to me.
And they said it was pretty tough terrain with leaves and stuff all over the ground, and they would have had to wade through a 3.5 foot river. I mean, how did he keep them so subdued? We've got some missing pieces here, I feel like.
Oh, she said page 39, number 66. Let's see. Let's see.
Angel D, yes, that's what was mentioned, was that it was possibly she was killed that way so that the blood could be collected. Then maybe right. I was thinking, okay, well then did he take the blood and go put it in the river? That would be an easy way to get rid of it.
Okay, so Richard Allen is a 5'4" man who would have to accomplish, in order to pull off the abduction, ritualistic murder, and then stage the crime scene. This one man would have to have been solely responsible for marching Abby and Libby down a steep hill. This one man then would have to had to march both girls through the woods for some distance. 3, at some point in this time, this single solitary man would have had to cross a cold river whose depth was nearly 3.5 feet. At this depth, if the water were only 2 feet higher, Richard's whole body would have been completely immersed from head to toe. 4, with the cold river water rising well above his waist, this man acting alone has to worry about himself crossing the rushing river while also trying to corral 2 girls, keeping them from running or screaming, knowing that houses were not far away. 5, this man on his own would have had to then march the girls up to the site of the murders, while all 3, because of the depth of the water, were wearing undergarments, pants, shirts, jackets, socks, and shoes that were drenched with water from crossing the river. 6, once he and the girls arrived at the murder scene, this single solitary person then somehow would have had to subdue either Abby or Libby in rope or some other restraining device in order to have the ability to kill the unsubdued child without fear that the other child would run away or scream. 7, because of the lack of blood on the girl's clothing, each child would have had to have been completely disrobed before the single solitary man sliced his first victim's neck. So the man acting alone either asked each child to disrobe or he assisted in the disrobing. Do you want to read?
Yes. Okay, where are we at? Number 8?
Yep.
Before I do though, is it Liget, Legay,
Just just go with
Leget?
Leggett, or just go with whatever just works for you.
Okay. Okay.
I've been saying Leggett.
Okay. I'm going to apologize now, everybody, for my reading, but we're going to try this. Trooper Jerry Holman of the Unified Command has confirmed that both girls were naked at one point in time as Liberty was found at the crime scene completely naked, while evidence showed that Abby at one point in time had her clothes off. 9. Once the girls were disrobed and naked in the middle of the forest in the middle of the day in February, and once he had subdued one of the 2 girls to prevent her from running away, the man acting alone could have finally killed the girls. 10. This man acting alone would have to pull the ceremonial knife or whatever sharp instrument was used to inflict fatal injuries to the neck of the first child. It is unknown which child perished first. While the second child watched, hopefully without screaming or becoming so hysterical that said child was uncontrollable. The man acting alone would then walk over to the second child, who was somehow subdued, and inflict the same fatal injuries to her neck. The autopsy notes taken by, Leggett revealed that the pathologist stated that because of the particular vein that was severed, Abby suffered a
Oh
slow death.
no. Oh,
I know.
oh,
And I just don't see
oh,
one of the girls not freaking out when that happened
yeah.
and screaming and
Oh, how
those girls.
horrible. That is not saying that as if it wasn't already bad enough with the parent, like that this happened to your child, but imagine that was included in the notes. Like, oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
That would be even your worst fear, to know that it was slow.
They just must have been terrified.
Yeah.
Because I think when you have any sort of fatal accident or killing or anything like that, you hold on to that. Oh, I hope it was quick,
Yep.
Mm. Okay. You want me to go on?
Yep.
Okay. To give Liggett as much additional time needed to sell his preposterous story that one man committed all of these tasks in a short period of time, we will presume that this one man, acting alone, took Abby's life first and Libby's second, so that he, the lone killer, could efficiently handle all of the other tasks necessary while Abby suffered her slow death. This is where I had to take the break. I was just like, yeah, okay. Additionally, even after Abby finally would have died, the man acting alone would have had to have then wait enough time for the blood escaping from Abby's neck would stop flowing, as there was little to no blood found on any of the clothing Abby was wearing other than around the neck area, both undergarments and outer garments, meaning that the single solitary man likely clothed Abby's dead body after the flow had blood had ceased.
Mm-hmm.
Once this man acting alone inflicted the injuries to Abby's neck and she was dying a slow death, he would have left Abby on the ground somewhere away from where she was ultimately laid to rest, as there was little blood at the scene where she was laid to rest and posed, and where the man acting alone placed sticks on her body. 16. While waiting for Abby to die her slow death, the man acting alone would have then used his ceremonial knife or whatever sharp object he used to inflict Libby's fatal injuries at the base of the F tree where Libby's blood was found. There was a little bit of info in the footnotes I noticed.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
I don't know if this is one. Holman deposition, find attached marks.
It says in regards to timing, what would slow death fall under? It's 5 minutes, 25 minutes, 55 minutes, and it did not determine an answer yet.
Yeah. Okay. 17. While 1, waiting for Abby to die her slow death, and then 2, while waiting for the blood to stop escaping from Abby's fatal injuries, this man, acting alone, would then grab Libby's body from the F tree, where she was probably killed, dragging her to the final resting place at the base of the tree where she was found. While waiting for 1, Abby to die her slow death, and then waiting for the blood to stop draining from Abby's neck, this man, acting alone, then would have to pose and position Libby's dead body in a manner in which her dead body was found at the scene. While waiting for 1, Abby to die her slow death, and then 2, waiting for the blood to stop draining from Abby's neck, this man, acting alone, then would select a variety of tree branches and sticks with the ultimate purpose of placing them on Libby's dead body. After selecting the branches and sticks, this man alone would then gather those sticks and branches. After gathering the selected branches and sticks, the man acting alone would have to carefully arrange the sticks in a pattern found at the crime scene. So basically here the defense is trying to prove that it's not possible for just him to have done this.
Yeah, you don't have to. They're saying how the sticks were not natural. They did not naturally land there. They were not naturally placed there. They were very intentional.
One looks almost like an asterisk where the middle of the sticks were all in the same position. Stuff like that. Which one had the antlers placed? The sticks to make the antlers.
Oh,
it was the one who was dressed. Was that Libby?
Abby,
okay. Do you want me to run through these? Because it's just kind of explaining the sticks, but it doesn't really make
no, you don't have to.
Much sense.
You don't have to.
Okay. At some point in time, once the blood draining from Abby's neck had stopped, this man acting alone would then have to gather the discarded clothing from both girls. This man would then have had to redress Abby's dead body, starting with the undergarments Abby was wearing, without leaving any blood that his or Abby or Libby's on the undergarments, except around the neck area where Abby had been mortally wounded. This man alone would have to use his dexterity to lift Abby's dead body in order to maneuver the first bra onto Abby's dead body. This man acting alone would then have to use his dexterity to lift Abby's body in order to maneuver the first bra under her back. This man acting alone then would have had to use his dexterity to secure the black bra onto Abby. This man acting alone would then have to locate the second bra that Abby was wearing. There you go. This man acting alone would then again have to use his dexterity to lift Abby's dead body in order to maneuver the second bra onto Abby's dead body. The man acting alone would then use his dexterity to secure a second woman's bra onto Abby. Once both bras were secured onto Abby's dead body, the man acting alone would have to locate the pink shirt that Abby was wearing underneath the sweatshirt. Once the pink shirt was located, the man acting alone would likely have positioned Abby's arms above her head to make it easier to place the pink shirt onto Abby's dead body. Once Abby's arms were positioned above her head, then the man acting alone would have to place the opening at the bottom of the pink shirt just above Abby's outstretched arms. Once the bottom opening of the pink sweatshirt or the pink shirt was positioned just above Abby's outstretched arms, the man acting alone would then use his dexterity by lifting Abby's left arm and placing it into the pink shirt.
Oh, goodness.
Oh my gosh. reading this, it's like, how many times do they need to say dead body?
I know. Abby was wearing 2 bras. The first bra on top of Abby's skin, but under the second bra was a traditional looking black bra. The second bra was on top of the black bra and under a pink shirt. The second bra was what the defense would call a gray sports bra. Yeah, it is clear, Dreamscape, because I do agree. There, with this motion, there is a narrative being pushed with this motion too, and they're writing it a very specific way. But even if you take away all of like the way they're describing it and you're just looking at the facts are very weird and unusual on their own.
Very.
Even if you take it and still apply it to Richard Allen, it's like, what the hell? Like, this is bizarre. Thank you for reading this, Mifa.
You're welcome. I'm sorry about my reading. It's horrible, and I hate my
No,
voice,
you're doing
so.
a great job. You're doing a great job.
No.
Great
You're the
job.
one that needs to be doing audiobooks. I would totally listen to them if you were narrating.
You're doing great.
Once the man acting alone maneuvered Abby's left hand and left arm through the bottom of the pink shirt, he would have to use his dexterity to move Abby's left hand and left arm towards the left armhole of the pink shirt. Once the man acting alone had used his dexterity to maneuver Abby's left hand and left arm towards the left armhole in the pink shirt, he would have to use his dexterity to pull the left arm through the left armhole on the pink shirt. Once the left arm was successfully pulled through the left armhole of the pink shirt, the man acting alone would have used his dexterity by picking up Abby's right arm and placing it in the bottom of the entry hole in the pink shirt. Once the man acting alone had used his dexterity to maneuver Abby's right hand and right arm towards the right armhole in the pink shirt, he would have had to use his dexterity to pull the right arm through the right armhole on the pink shirt. Once the man acting alone had successfully maneuvered Abby's right and left arms through the armholes, then he would have to use his dexterity by using one hand to lift the upper portion of Abby's body, while the other hand to pull the pink shirt towards Abby's midsection until the shirt was properly dressed on Abby. Additionally, the man acting alone while using his one hand to pull the pink shirt towards Abby's midsection would have had to lift Abby's body high enough off the ground to avoid getting any dirt on the pink shirt, as the photographs show that the pink shirt was clean. Now, when I was reading this, I thought, you know how if you take your shirt and sweatshirt off in one, how it kind of sticks there and you can put it on in one?
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe that was the case.
Well, you can't really put it on in one unless it's a long sleeve too. Like if it's a short sleeve, you can't. Like if you're wearing a t-shirt and then a sweatshirt and you take it off, at least for me, I can't put it back on in reverse.
Oh, I could do a tank top even.
Huh. But could you do it on somebody else in a...
Melissa, I can barely walk by myself. I don't think I could pull off doing anything like this.
You Jade.
It is likely that once the murderer redressed Abby in her pink shirt, and the pink shirt never touched the damp, dirty ground, as there was no dirt on the shirt whatsoever. Unlike the wet dirt found on Libby's backside, the wet dirt also found on the sweatshirt Abby was ultimately dressed in. This would mean that once the man redressed Abby in the pink shirt, that he would have likely held up the upper portion of Abby's body with one hand while grabbing the sweatshirt with the other before placing the sweatshirt on Abby. That has got to be so hard to do.
Yeah.
This would mean that once the man redressed Abby in the pink shirt, that he would have did I just read that?
You're on 42 now.
Yeah, okay. In order to put the sweatshirt on Abby, once he was able to locate Libby's sweatshirt, then this man acting alone likely positioned at least one of Abby's arms above her head to make so. Oh,
Whoops. Oh, no. Sorry.
I thought I got kicked out. I'm like,
No.
no,
Not you. Sorry.
it can't be me with my absolutely fabulous fiber internet now.
I went to go scroll and accidentally went exit. You're on 42. Well,
in order to put the sweatshirt on Abby, once he was able to locate Libby's sweatshirt, then this man acting alone likely positioned at least one of Abby's arms above her head to make it easier for this man to put Libby's sweatshirt onto Abby's body. Once he positioned Abby's arms above her head, this man acting alone would then have to take the opening of the sweatshirt near the outstretched arms of Abby. Once he positioned Libby's sweatshirt near Abby's arms, this man acting alone would have had to maneuver the left hand and arm in order to move it into the bottom opening of the sweatshirt. So basically, he's putting the sweatshirt on.
And the reason that they're going into such great detail into this is to show how difficult it would be for one person to do this, to express their point.
Yes. It just seems so staged and not, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, once both arms had been placed into the entrance of the opening of Libby's sweatshirt, then this man acting alone would have had to use his dexterity to pull the sweatshirt down towards Abby's head, likely using one of his hands as the other was being used to prop up Abby's body so that it wasn't touching the ground. Again, as the pink shirt shows no dirt. Once this man acting alone started pulling the sweatshirt down toward Abby's head, he would also have had to make sure that Abby's left arm and left hand were also being pulled inside the sweatshirt's left armhole towards the hole at the end of the sweatshirt's left sleeve. Once this man acting alone started pulling the sweatshirt down towards Abby's head, he would have had to make sure that Abby's right arm and right hand were also being pulled inside the sweatshirt right armhole towards the hole at the end of the sweatshirt's right sleeve. Once the man acting alone had successfully guided both of the arms and left arm into their respective armholes, then this man would have had to use his dexterity to lift Abby's body with one hand while using the other hand to pull the sweatshirt down towards Abby's midsection, making sure that the sweatshirt was pulled over Abby's head. Once this man acting alone had secured the first bra and the second bra and the pink shirt and then the sweatshirt onto Abby's dead body, then he would have to locate Abby's jeans, which were found, or Libby's jeans, which were found on Abby. Once this man acting alone had located Libby's jeans, this man acting alone would have had to place the opening of Libby's jeans at Abby's feet. Once he placed the opening of Libby's jeans at Abby's feet, this man acting alone would then have had to use his dexterity to lift Abby's feet from her dead body enough off the ground in order to start the process of maneuvering Libby's jeans onto Abby's dead body. First, this man acting alone would have had to lift either the right or the left leg and foot into the opening of the jeans. Next, the man acting alone would have lifted the remaining leg and foot into the opening of the jeans. Once he was able to position Abby's feet into the opening of Libby's jeans, then this man acting alone would have to use his dexterity to lift Abby's hips and jeans up Abby's dead body. Sorry, my neighbor's taking their dogs out.
You're good.
Once the man acting alone was able to maneuver the jeans several inches towards Abby's midsection, he would have to continue to readjust by lifting the body with one hand while grabbing the jeans and pulling them towards Abby's midsection with the other hand. This man acting alone would continue this adjustment and readjustment using both of his hands until the jeans were ultimately completely on Abby's dead body. And jeans are hard to get on.
Jeans are, yeah.
I mean,
But-
just yourself.
But I will say, Liberty was a little bit bigger than Abby, so there was I'm sure it made it a little bit easier, given that it would have been like maybe a size bigger than Abby was.
Okay, I didn't know that.
I think so.
Okay, this man acting alone would continue this adjustment and readjustment using both of his hands until the genes were ultimately completely on Abby's dead body. Once this man acting alone had successfully completed the task of dressing Abby in the first bra, the second bra, the pink shirt, Libby's sweatshirt, and jeans, he would then have to locate Abby's Converse tennis shoes. Once the man acting alone had located Abby's black Converse tennis shoes with white laces, he would have used his dexterity to lift Abby's leg with one hand while using the other hand to place Abby's tennis shoe on her left foot. Once this man acting alone had completed the task of placing Abby's left Converse tennis shoe with the white laces back onto Abby's left foot, he would have to grab Abby's other tennis shoe, the right tennis shoe. Once this man acting alone had grabbed Abby's right tennis shoe, he would have used his dexterity to lift Abby's right leg with one hand, while using the other hand to place Abby's right Converse tennis shoe onto Abby's right foot. Once the man acting alone had placed both shoes on Abby's feet, he would have had to locate the right twigs and sticks that could be fashioned into antlers and horns.
Antlers. I want to know if it really was positioned as antlers or horns versus just sticks, and the defense is making it appear like antlers and horns to fit more with the cult narrative,
Yeah.
I don't know how many sizes bigger Abby was than Libby St. Jenny. All I know is that she would be at least one size bigger, right? So that's just my point, that she would be at least one size bigger, so it would leave extra room to get the clothes on. That's all I was saying.
Once the man acting alone had placed both shoes on Abby's feet, he would have had to locate the right twigs to be fashioned into antlers horns. Once those twigs are found, then the man acting alone would have to lay the twig sticks over Abby's hair so that they cross and crudely resembled antlers. Since there appeared to be no blood on Abby's tennis shoes or other clothing other than around the neck area, this man acting alone would have had to have been extremely careful to avoid any of the blood that came out of Abby's neck as as Libby's neck.
That definitely implies that they were already naked when the injuries were inflicted. I would think that they would show photos, Dara, at trial of the bodies that they took when they were found, but not publicly. They're, just to the jury.
Okay. Because the river is very close to the murder scene, the man acting alone could have also walked to the river following the cutting of the girls' necks in order to wash and clean the blood from his hands before touching Abby's naked body and placing the clothing back on Abby's naked body. So, I mean, he would have had to even wash up before doing this. That's crazy to me.
I struggle with the time and it being during the day and people were there. That's crazy to me.
Yeah. Because I always had thought that they were like held for a while and then it happened. I didn't know it was only an hour's time. So how do you do all this in an hour?
Yeah. Or there's a decent amount of people who do not believe the girls were killed there at all, and they think that they were placed there later. And if you were looking at the research chat and saw some of the messages Shay put in, one of the people who were searching there said that they had searched that exact area the day before the girls were found, and they were not there. And so if you go with the theory that the girls were taken somewhere and then placed there after. That would account for that, but I don't know how I feel about that.
Because I've also thought, like, okay, well, did he have them in the river while he killed them?
I don't know, man.
There's
It's
just so
so
many. Yeah.
Thank
Okay,
you.
another
Thank
plot.
you, Richie, for being a member for 6 months.
Richie!
Richie.
Another possible explanation as to how Abby had no visible blood on her body or clothes other than near the site of the wound is that the man acting alone had hanged Abby on a tree, stringing her up by her feet. This method, consistent with pagan sacrificial rituals found on Brad Holder's Facebook page, would allow the blood to drip out of Abby's neck more quickly and would also prevent the blood from desecrating Abby's body, especially if the man acting alone was able to hold Abby's arms away from her body as the blood spilled out her neck.
Okay. So, again, we're going to do a live either tomorrow or Thursday where she's going to go through all of the information she's pulled, like on Brad. And I've seen that post. Mifa, you saw the post. And it's a painting Brad did. And it is someone hanging upside down from a tree with their foot. Here's the thing. They would know that during autopsy if she was. If there was any other injury to her body, blood obviously would not have exited from it if she was hanging upside down, because with gravity, that means all the blood would rush to your head. They absolutely 100% would know if she was hanging upside down at the time that her throat was slashed. So if the autopsy does not show that, then that's not an option. And I think they are basing that solely on his Facebook post and making that fit. Like, yes, of course, that is an option that could explain no blood, but you are making that jump and suggesting that solely because of his Facebook post.
Which that's what's making me think like that Holder was almost being set up for this.
I mean, there are a lot of weird things, but I don't know. I had to look into it more.
Shay has done an amazing job deep diving into this.
Yeah.
Okay. Once this man acting alone had successfully completed the task of locating and putting on Abby's tennis shoes, then he would have had to identify certain sticks that he would use to place on Abby's body. Now, because at least one of the branches appeared to have a clean cut end, this man acting alone either A, brought out his saw, a saw that he had either stashed at the murder scene ahead of time or had carried on his person as he walked on the bridge, and then used the saw to cleanly cut the end of at least one of the branches.
I need to know do you have the actual branch, or are you going based on photos that it appears to be cleanly sawed? Number 2, how big are these branches? You know, like, is it like big, or is it like, because they're even saying it doesn't look like it was broken by hand. Because you do not need an electric saw to like cut a branch if it's that small type of thing. So I just want to know if they're basing this on an image, like of a photograph, or did you see it in person? Because that's crazy to me. That just
some of the branches were long enough to go from groin to overhead.
Right. And listen, if you look at the area, I'm sure that there's branches of all different sizes. So why would an electric saw be needed specifically to cut this one? You know what I mean?
Well, live branches, like if you had pulled them off right then, are a lot harder to break when they're wet like that. or live than it is old branches that you could basically snap over your knee.
I definitely don't think anything was sawed off, but I think they're jumping to that again to prove that this was planned, and in order, they need things to show that. And talking about a branch that appears to have had a tool used on it would indicate that. And that does bother me too. Her phone being under her leg, he clearly put it there. It wasn't still there. He clearly put it there, but why he didn't have a concern for the phone being there tells us that he had no idea he was being recorded at all.
Yeah. Okay, you want me to go on?
Yes, thank you.
Which one was? Oh, okay, B. So it was either this, they're saying he brought a saw or stashed one, or B, located the branch with the clean cut end that he, the man acting alone, had either stashed ahead of time at the murder site, or that he had carried with him on his person while walking the high bridge before abducting the girls, or the man acting alone just so happened to have found a branch with a clean cut end on the ground in the woods. Before placing his three hand selected sticks on Abby's dead body, the man acting alone would then have to position Abby the way she had been found. First, the man acting alone would have grabbed Abby's right hand and bent it at the elbow towards Abby's face so that the arm was resting on Abby's chest with Abby's right hand near the right side of her face. Next, the man acting alone would have grabbed Abby's left hand, bent it at the elbow towards the left side of Abby's face with the arm and hand resting on Abby's chest, with her left hand near the bottom of the left side of her face. Once the man acting alone positioned Abby's right and left arm in a specific way that he wanted, he would have then would have taken Abby's right leg and bent it at the knee. Once the man acting alone had bent Abby's right leg at the knee, he would have taken the bent portion of Abby's right leg below the knee and placed it under Abby's left leg, which was positioned in a straight line. And now that footnote is,
Yep.
yeah.
Talks about Holder leaving a comment under a post about a man made about using an electric saw to cut a tree branch. And he made a comment saying, "Cutting runes." Jeez.
Once the man acting alone had positioned Abby's body in a way that he desired, then the man could commence placing the sticks on Abby's body. First, the man acting alone would have gotten the largest and longest of the branches and placed it diagonally from the bottom of Abby's body, beginning below the right leg, over Abby's midsection, then over Abby's left shoulder. This branch was so long that it covered a few feet below Abby's right leg and a foot or so to the top of Abby's head. So if they were 5 something, that branch would have been 6-7 feet long.
Yep.
Once the man acting alone placed his first larger branch across Abby's body, then he would have taken the second shorter stick and placed it on a line, for the most part, between Abby's right and left shoulders and over her neck. Once the man acting alone was through placing the stick described in paragraph 75, he finally would have laid the last stick on a line along the left side of Abby's body towards the middle of her head, with all 3 sticks intersecting at the same exact location on the left side of Abby's body. Once the man acting alone had finished placing the sticks and branches on Abby's body in a specific way that he desired, he would then have to place the rune on the tree where Libby had likely been slayed. Once the man acting alone would have dipped his hand or some other object into Libby's blood, he would have then walked away from the bodies towards the tree where Libby had been slayed. Once at the tree where Libby had been slayed, the man acting alone would have taken his finger dripping with blood or a tool dripping with blood and would have painted a line, maybe a foot long, straight down the tree trunk, about 4 feet above the ground. Once the straight line would have been painted using Libby's blood, the man acting alone may have had to walk back to Libby's body, dip his fingers into Libby's neck, or to drip whatever tool he used into Libby's neck wound in order to have enough blood to finish the rune that he was painting on the tree. Once he dipped his finger into or tool into Libby's wound, the man acting alone would have walked over to the tree now containing the vertical line of Libby's blood about 4 feet above the ground and would have used Libby's blood to paint two lines horizontal to the ground to form what looks similar to an F.
So oh fuck, I did it again. These details are so just horrible.
Now, if you've ever dipped your finger in paint or anything like that, it takes quite a bit to make a foot-long line. And I don't see him going back and forth to do it. That again makes me think that he collected the blood and kept dipping his fingers in right there.
Yeah, that's right. That's true. That's true. And it says that law enforcement officer Greg Francie sent Tony Leggett a video of a pagan ritual videotaped by Brad Holder in which someone that looks like Patrick Westfall is marking a tree with his hand or fingers. So they're making that good correlation. They're causing that reasonable doubt.
Mm-hmm. Once the painting of the rune on the tree was complete using Libby's blood, the man acting alone would now locate certain clothing items that he did not place on Abby, but were still on the ground, including Abby's jeans. Once he located the certain clothing items, he would gather them. Once the man acting alone gathered the remaining clothing items, he would leave the immediate area around the crime scene and walk to the river. Once the man acting alone reached the river, he would toss those clothing items into the river. Once the man acting alone had thrown the clothing items into the river, he would have had to walk back up to the crime scene and canvass it to make sure he left nothing behind. Now, this is where it really gets me, and it makes me think about Koberger. Once the man acting, it says along, but I'm sure it's supposed to be alone, made sure he left nothing behind, including his DNA, hair, fingerprints, and shoe prints, the man would be able to leave. Once the man acting alone was able to leave, after exerting all the energy needed to complete all those tasks, he would have had to walk up a steep hill for 700 yards through some thickets and brush until he was able to get to the road 300 north.
Mm-hmm. And Pointer Lover, his defense attorneys have access to the discovery because they're his defense attorneys, so they have access to all of it. Now, whether or not they were allowed to release all the, I don't know. Actually, I really don't know.
The only thing I can think about the footprints is a bunch of leaves on the ground.
Yeah.
You'd think that would cover some, but it just, how do you not leave anything?
Well, if he managed, and I know this sounds crazy, but if he made the girls get undressed, maybe he got undressed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Maybe not butt-ass naked, but maybe, down to boxers.
But it would almost make it seem like that would be harder to not leave DNA because you're completely exposed.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's so sick.
That's a great question, Nika. But they get into the confession part too. Because Nika says, how's the defense going to get around a confession?
Well, weren't they trying to get that thrown out?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Once the man acting alone was able to make his way onto 300 North to walk down the road in broad daylight, open to the public, rather than in the woods under cover, this man then walked some distance westbound on 300 North before allegedly being spotted by Sarah Carbo at 3:57 p.m. So he wouldn't have had blood on him.
Fuck.
How you couldn't do that in broad daylight and being spotted? One man, 5'4" in stature, hailed to the killing of the second girl, waiting while Abby died a slow death, then clothing Abby with very little to any blood transfer on said clothing, to the arrangement of the sticks into the runes, to the painting of the F rune on the tree, to throwing of the clothing items into the river, to the departure of the crime scene, and finally to traversing hundreds of yards through a forest and then up a steep hill, and then another 100 or more yards until finally reaching 300 North. All the while being so carefully not to leave any DNA or other forensic evidence behind. Were all these acts committed by one man acting alone? All these things occurred between 17 minutes to 1 hour and 17 minutes after the girls heard the phrase down the hill at approximately 2:13. Again, not plausible. At
Yeah.
his, yeah.
Here, I'll jump around though. I don't know. What do you think, Meatfoot?
I think it was definitely making it to look like it was Holder, but I have a hard time believing that only one person did this.
It
I
is a
mean,
lot.
and I'm the one that thinks like Brian Koberger did it alone, 4 people.
Mhm.
But this is way different. The terrain, the no blood on the bodies, the sticks, the to do that in 1 hour. And this is saying that basically Liggett had
Originally
told,
believed that at least two people were involved, and then
but
under
he
oath said only one.
yeah. So they're really calling him into question of why would you tell people that you thought there were more than one person, but then under oath you're saying no, it was only one person,
Mm-hmm. And
which
Leggett,
that's a problem.
yep. And then Leggett intentionally or recklessly concealed information and intentionally fabricated facts in his affidavit, and duplicity under oath about the number of people he felt were involved in the murders is just one of many reasons to believe the support that Leggett intentionally concealed evidence and fabricated other evidence in his sworn affidavit. Because again, if you could prove that even one thing that he said under oath isn't consistent, then they have to question everything.
Nika's asking, wait, how do we know that it was done within 1 hour? Nika, that's because they have the video of him saying down the hill. And then he was spotted again by, I forget her name, but it was up there. So it was in between that time frame, which is 1 hour.
They were all looking for the girls though, so, like shortly after, and so it's just the time
Mm-hmm.
the time frame we're working with, and it being the daytime out in the open, and for all this to be happening, that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Thank you, the Rockaways.
Yes, it was an hour and 17 minutes from when he was cited, or that it would have had to take place, because I think they timed out how long it would have taken him to get back up to where he was seen.
Now, why do you think he would go about stripping them down and then switching the clothes? That is a lot of work, and that increases the risk, okay?
Mm-hmm.
To sit there and waste time, not just unclothing, but taking the time to clothe one of the victims with the other one's clothes. Do you think he was going to clothe them both back up, but then gave up after one because it was taking too much time? And didn't remember whose clothes were whose? Like, what? You don't have time to waste. You just murdered them. You're not going to sit there and just let me clothe them, even as much to put the bras on, like, why?
Well, I was even thinking when they crossed the river, maybe they were already stripped down and they weren't told to hold their clothing, and one of the girls let go of the clothing, which would explain why they thought it was he released the clothing into the river. I thought that was one possibility.
Do we know where?
What?
Do we know where the other girl's clothing is?
It said they were tossed in the river.
Oh, it did. I didn't see that part. Aww. Thanks,
Aww. Happy 2 years.
Yeah, happy 2 years. That's... You think so, the Rockaways? I want to find... I don't know if Shay's still listening, but where they talked about why Richard confessed. This is getting into the evidence that connects the Odinite to the murders. Which again just goes into kind of the same things that we already read. Man hanging upside down from a tree is an image on the Odinism website. This is what they're speculating may have happened to Abby.
Yeah, see, I started just skimming from this point forward and then stopped.
Well, and the fact that early on in the investigation, one or more of the investigators did consider Odinists to be potentially the ones who did this crime, is going to help this narrative.
The amount of fear. And one girl wouldn't have left the other.
No, that's the craziest part, is how did he subdue them both?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I know when the bullet was found, a lot of people thought, oh, okay, he had a gun. He didn't use it, but he used that to keep the other one from running.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the defense is doing a good job at creating reasonable doubt.
Absolutely. So Brad Holder's connections to the crime scene. Again, Brad Holder is Logan's dad, who was dating Abby at the time of the murders. Then we have Patrick Westville, who was living in Delphi at the time of the murders. he has connections to Odinism. And him and Brad Holder have connections.
I can't believe there's this many people with connections to it in this
Right?
small town.
I know.
I live in the Bible Belt, so it's really taboo here for something like this. So maybe that's why it seems so.
I just still can't get over the way their bodies were found. Like, I'm sorry, I'm trying to just scroll and find. Because this is just going through the Odinism connections with Brad Holder and stuff.
Can you unpen the comment?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Melissa Strange. I'd never heard of it either. I mean, I know like cults and kind of pagan and stuff like that. Not saying that pagan is a cult, but you know. But I'd never actually heard of the term Odinite. Yes, Denise, the defense is fighting for cameras and video of the trial.
And again, either tomorrow or Thursday, we're going to be doing a live specifically on Brad Holder. So even though I'm scrolling through this information now, we're going to be doing a deep dive into it.
And it is some freaky stuff.
Yeah. It's interesting. Trying to get to the next section. It's just a lot. They were very detailed.
Yeah. Elsie Lovett, I absolutely do think Richard Allen was involved, especially because, I mean, the video on the high bridge, the down the hill video, I mean, it's him.
So this says very early on, multiple tipsters contacted law enforcement via the tip line requesting that Brad Holder be investigated as a suspect. But Leggett and Unified Command quickly cleared Holder as a suspect despite mounting evidence linking Holder to Abby and the crime scene. That's interesting that multiple tips were called in about him.
That's like, okay, this is one of the biggest things that happened in that area. Everybody wanted answers. It was the two pretty little girls. I mean, it caught attention everywhere. And I forgot what I was going with that. For what you said.
Well, like for people to call in and say, hey, you need to look at him. Multiple people.
Yeah, how did they mess up on this? Didn't Richard Allen go to the cops and say he was there?
I think so, yeah.
And they just overlooked it? It was apparently a mistake of somebody who didn't follow up. And then they get tips about this guy and sacrifices and all that stuff, and they didn't follow up.
I don't know.
It's just weird.
It is. And what I hate is if you go back to like when they originally spoke to the public, they said that there was no ongoing threat to the public or cause for concern. How can you say that when there is a killer out and these details, this is what you were dealing with?
Yeah.
You told the public that there was no cause for concern, and you really had no idea because you even interviewed Richard Allen, the killer, allegedly. You are telling us. And you try to reassure us there was no concern. That's crazy to me.
Yeah. A ritualistic looking murder like this of 2 little girls.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are fine. Don't worry.
So this part is legit concealed and falsified evidence. It is affidavit for the search warrant. So it says for legit's timeline to work and place Richard Allen on the bridge. Legit desperately needed Betsy Blair to describe a man on the bridge that looked like Richard Allen, and perhaps more importantly, needed Betsy Blair to describe a car that she observed parked at the CPS parking lot at approximately 2:15 as looking like Richard Allen's black Ford Focus. Betsy's description of the man she observed around 2 p.m. looked nothing like Richard Allen. Legit concealed this information from Judge Diener. Betsy's description of the vehicle she observed at the CPS parking lot looked nothing like a black Ford Focus. Legit also concealed this information. For good measure, Legit also lied about what Sarah Carbo observed at 3:57 p.m. That also blew up his timeline.
Harlot made a good comment, and I really agree with this. I have a hard time believing it was a ritual. That's pretty rare in real life. But if it was a sacrifice, why none before and none after? And why leave them next to a river with symbols everywhere? I mean, don't they a lot of times want to conceal stuff like this?
Well, like, and if it was cult, what the hell are you doing during the day? And, you know, like, I would imagine, and I know it might be stereotypical and from Hollywood, but I imagine in the middle of the night, you all going out in the dark with your little robes, and not in the daytime in public like that.
In an hour and 17 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, I could almost understand, like, okay, they came out and said, oh, well, a year prior we found some animals mutilated and sticks around them or something. Like something that would link, okay, this is something that happened in this area. But to just all of a sudden have this ritual thing and it's the only one like it.
That's true. Yep. So her original, so you know what? Also, if we're gonna go with, oh, and this is supposed to happen in like an hour and 18 minutes or whatever, how are we supposed to rely on that sighting of Richard Allen if this is the type of descriptions we're having? It doesn't even line up with him. How do we even know that was actually him that she saw? Not saying he wasn't there. He was there, but maybe that wasn't even him that she specifically saw.
Yeah.
Her original description was a white male, age 20, brown curly hair.
Well, there were those 2 sketches that were totally different that came out.
Very opposite.
An hour, I feel like he subdued them, and this occurred at a different time. Because they even searched that area.
So, roughly 2 years later, Betsy met with Tony, frustrated that her sketch. Oh, I'm sorry. So, the facial identification reference sheet contains an illustration called Sketch 2. And Betsy told the sketch artist that that illustration was 10 out of 10 for accuracy. They did not release that sketch to the public for over 2 years. Instead, they first released the Sarah Carbo sketch called Sketch 1. So then roughly 2 years later, Betsy met with Tony, frustrated that her sketch had not been released to the public. Betsy was frustrated because sketch number 1, which had been released to the public almost 2 years before, did not match the man that she observed on the high bridge. Betsy even commented that sketch 1 was wrong. Certainly, it was odd that Sarah's sketch was chosen to be released over the Betsy sketch for the following reasons. Betsy provided her description to the sketch artist only 4 days after seeing the man. Betsy had a good look at the man's face. The man was slender and youthful looking. He has more boyish looking, 20s to early 30s. His hair seemed poofy, no facial hair. Yeah, that does not seem like him. So they're saying that they basically manipulated it to fit Alan.
I think Alan is definitely involved. I mean, the Down the Hill video did it for me. But I have a hard time believing he did it alone.
But if he did it alone, you don't think he'd roll on whoever else?
I don't know.
Okay. Leggett flat out lied when he told Judge Diener that in 2017, Sarah Carbo described a man as wearing muddy and bloody clothing and was wearing a blue jacket. Really? A tan-colored coat, not a blue jacket.
Squeaky wheel, I agree. Doug Carter was embarrassed, as he should have been, after realizing the prime suspect was right under their noses for over 5 years. He was interviewed, confessed to being there, and never followed up on.
They're saying that Richard Allen drove away from the CPS parking lot at 1:30. And at some point before 2:15, another person in a car that resembled a 1965 Comet entered the parking lot and parked. All right, so it says, after his arrest, Richard Allen was forced to be housed in Westville Correctional Facility. On April 3rd, 2023, 2 of the transport guards walking Richard to and from his visit prominently displayed multiple patches on their Department of Corrections uniform. The top patch, "In Odin We Trust," was displayed under their embroidered name tags on the right side of their Department of Corrections uniform shirt. On the left side of their DOC uniform shirts were 2 patches. The lower of the 2 patches consisted of a partial American flag and interlocking triangles. The interlocking triangles is a common symbol for those involved in the pagan Odinite religion. Above this American flag interlocking triangle patch was a patch that proclaimed, "I hate people."
I have a hard time believing that they were allowed to wear patches like this.
That's why I laughed.
I mean,
they're saying defense team was not allowed to bring phones, therefore they could not take photos.
Convenient.
But they're providing affidavits from members of the defense team that viewed the patches. Here are the patches worn by the guards. They were found on Etsy. So this is what they're saying that they wore. That's some big ass conspiracy shit, man.
Yeah.
Like that these cultists are all connected and now they're even covering up for one another.
I just don't see how that would be possible to wear those patches out in the open and nothing ever come out about it until now.
Mm-hmm. Crazy. I hate people right there. It says this also coincides with Richard's mental health declining. These two guards seemed inseparable from Richard. They would walk him to and from his attorney visits. When he visited his wife, they were always close enough to Richard to be assuring that Richard did not feel comfortable talking to his attorneys or wife without knowing that these Odinite guards were within earshot of anything he would tell his lawyers or wife. They're saying that Richard claimed on multiple occasions that they were going to kill him. When they asked who, Richard responded by saying the guys with Odin patches. We're almost at the end, guys.
What do you guys all think about this? Do you think it was Richard Allen, or was there more people, or?
Yeah, I want to hear your guys' thoughts. But they're doing an emergency request to transport Richard out of the Westville County Jail. Just going through the last couple of pages and seeing if there was anything in here.
Hey, MJ, I'm going to have to jump down, but thank you for having me up.
Okay, Meat Feeds, thank you so much. Seriously.
Oh, you're welcome, darling. Anytime.
Love you.
Love you too. Bye.
Bye. She's so sweet. Seriously, I appreciate her so much. It says the defense has obtained video from prison. One of the videos obtained showed the aftermath of something that happened to Richard. The defense is not sure what exactly happened that caused him to look the way that was depicted in the still shot, whether it was self-harm or something else. But he was watched by Odinites, and the evidence strongly supports Odinite involvement. And they have great concern for his safety. And okay. There's no DNA linking Richard Allen to the crime scene. No evidence that links to any suspects in the case. No social media evidence. No fingerprints. Conclusion: Richard Allen is not connected to these horrific murders in any way. Leggett attempted to convince Judge Diener that evidence of the murders would be found in Rick's home over 5 years after the girls were slain. If Leggett had been honest, then the judge would not have signed the warrant. Leggett wasn't honest, though. Richard's lack of any connection whatsoever to the crime scene, combined with Leggett's lies and concealments, merit a Frank's hearing. False statements were made, omitted facts, concealed information, and there we go. That's that. So what do you guys think? The police investigation was very poor. We did not have good evidence. We did not have the whole story. Almost nothing links Allen to this crime. The prosecution needs a lot of work. Yeah. Me too. But I'm open. Yeah. Well, just to find out the details of the crime scene and how they were found. I don't understand why his lawyers would allow a guard to sit there and record his meetings with them. Yeah. Well, I don't automatically think one person is not capable of committing the crime still. I still think that's possible. I just struggle with the location and the time. But just the circumstances with the injuries, with them being declothed and then one of them being redressed and moved, and the marking on the tree. It makes you wonder, all right, well, is this someone who wasn't in a cult or had ties to Odinism, but just tried to throw investigators off by just doing something like that, throwing some sticks there and doing a marking? Sure, Planner Lover. Okay. So, believe Richard Allen do you believe Richard Allen to Okay, start poll. Yeah. Joyful Dolphin, what are you talking about? Well, and that's what I was saying earlier, squeaky wheel. If you separate kind of the narrative that was in the motion, which for the most part, you could kind of see what the narrative is, and try to focus on what most likely isn't, and that would be the marking on the tree, the indication of the injuries, one of the victims being naked, one of them being dressed in the other one's clothes, things like that. That alone is weird, but is it enough to cause reasonable doubt that Richard is the right person? Because who knows? Come trial, they may have all of these connections between Richard Allen and the crime scene. We don't know. So let's see where we're at. I said, do you believe Richard Allen to be the killer? We have 40% saying yes, 10% saying no, and 50% saying undecided. Guys, I was supposed to do the Maui wildfires with this live, but I think I'm gonna have to make a separate live for that because this took a lot longer than expected, and I don't think I could talk for that much longer. So I hope you can understand and be forgiving. I apologize. Yeah, I'm not sure what you're saying, Dolphin. But yeah, like I said, Shay already went deep down the rabbit hole, and there's 4 different people that this motion points at as potential suspects that have connections to Odinism and the murders. And we are going to do a live either tomorrow or Thursday that specifically focuses on them. But we're going to go deep down that rabbit hole regarding hold on. Holder. We're going to go deep down that rabbit hole, and Shay already did an amazing job at pulling up all these social media posts that they reference in this motion and all the weird cult Odinism things. And so it's really interesting to see. So we're going to do a live on that so you guys can see it, and we'll see what you think. And we'll keep an open mind and take a look at it. And yeah, so I'm going to end out the poll. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, 52% says undecided. 34% says yes. 13% says no. But yeah, it was really heavy stuff. It's sad. I feel, the worst for the families, obviously. But let's just hope that they could get the closure that they deserve. And yeah, I will schedule a live for us to do that deep dive. Other than that, I appreciate you all being here. Thank you so much to Meatfoot for helping me with that reading. It helps more than you even know. That was so super kind. And yeah, I will see you all tomorrow. So have a wonderful night.